Okay, we're live. Hey guys, do you guys want to start with names and major your interests in SOI involvement? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, let's start with you, Surya.
Okay, sure. Hey guys, my name's Surya. I go to UIUC. I'm undeclared, but I'm planning to do cognitive psychology with a minor in informatics. Interests, a lot of stuff, but right now, big history, complexity science, SOI involvement. I was involved with the SOI 2016 Arctic expedition. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go next. My name is Katya. I am a computer science major at the University of Waterloo. I'm also minoring in cognitive science, and I was on the 2016 SOI Arctic expedition.
Okay, hi. I'm Robert. I'm currently a second-year engineering science student at the University of Toronto. A lot of interest as well. Right now, I'm kind of very interested in looking at the intersection between engineering, math, and philosophy. And I was SOI both Arctic 2016 and Antarctic 2014.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Huo. I'm in anthropology and political science at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I was a part of the 2015 Arctic expedition, so 2 years ago, but still remember it freshly.
Okay, cool. So you guys want to get to it?
Yeah, let's jump right in.
Okay, so the first section we're going to do is design. So originally we had this as product design, but I kind of switched it to just broad design because I felt like that isn't like product design isn't a sufficient description or isn't like the right description to like right title for it. So it's just design now. And so the question that we're like broadly looking at is like, what are the advantages and challenges to developing technology based on systems? So this is like really taking like the systems view of like that everything is like kind of like connected and they have like interacting parts. So systems theory and anthropology, if you look that up, we're not going to go too deep into systems theory, but this is basically what it's kind of like we're going at. And so we're looking at more specifically at design fusion, like the process of creation and looking for like why we do things. Sometimes design is mistaken for aesthetics, and one of the big things that we want to show in this part is that design is more of a process and more of a kind of a way to solve issues. And so the first question is, what are design experiences and in what areas? So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I guess I can start. I'm currently in engineering right now, so I've had design experiences in quite a few areas over the last little while. I'd say the vast majority of my experience came in first year, where we took this course called Praxis, and essentially it's a human-centered design course. And so we had this big year-long project that we worked on, thinking about like how do we ergonomically make a solution, and not only create a solution, but also frame a problem effectively in order to help a population of individuals that's traditionally disadvantaged. So our big project was you have a group of autistic children who have a lot of trouble cutting vegetables because, you know, focus is an issue, muscular coordination is an issue, and essentially asking the question, how do we design a knife or like cutting system so that these kids can cut safely, effectively, and like participate in the cooking process. So that's been some of my experience on the human-centric approach. I've also gone on the more like technology-based approach this summer when I was working in the lab, essentially programming drones to do a whole bunch of control theory-based algorithms. And so that's also another interesting challenge of like designing for efficiency, right? How do we make sure that these drones fly in a way that best optimizes the completion of some tasks?
Okay, I can talk a bit about my design experience. So as a computer science student, we do a lot of studying about the technical aspects of sort of using different languages, different maybe paradigms, programming paradigms, and so on. But a lot of what we do is also related to design patterns, and that helps us create reusable code that makes it easier for other people to collaborate and add their own contributions. So, for example, a lot of our work is a lot of our extracurricular work is in the open source area, and when you're doing open source, it is so important to not only just like jump in and add your own sort of a contribution to a project, but also to enable other people to do a spin-off of whatever you've been working on. So design patterns that just make it easier to create reusable and just like a code that looks good. And in other areas, I've also done a bit of design work at hackathons. So there's this one cool one called Ultra Hack in, it was some Scandinavian country. I can't remember exactly which one, but they were working on a hack related to the carbon cycle and reducing the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, and it was pretty cool. They proposed a solution that involved creating more wood products to sort of, because wood captures the carbon and sort of keeps it in that product. That really wasn't a way of looking at that problem that I thought of before, but it's cool working on that.
Wow.
Well, I guess I can jump in and the last person to speak, I guess. Design, from my perspective and what I've done throughout my life, has mainly been around art and culture. So kind of, I'm maybe shifting a little bit away from technology, but it's very closely related in terms of art is what lets society express themselves, lets people express themselves, whether it's through physical objects or performance, so on and so forth. So I guess I can speak on, personally, my father's an architect, but I also have an interest in architecture and design. Design can be formulation off of nature, right? Or art can be, or design can be a formulation off of what we see in science and how things develop. So, just saying that my design experience has really been about how do we find the intersection between artistic expression and pragmatic, usages in society, right, and what we need. So that's kind of my general experience.
Wow. I agree with you 100%, Kevin, in your like more broad ideas of what design can be. Because like the way I always think of design is like a lot of people are thinking like, oh, if you're doing design, you're obviously doing technology and you're creating some sort of circuit or some sort of physical bridge or like building. But like for me, like design is more a mentality than anything else that you can apply anywhere. It's basically saying, let's come up with a rigorous system of frameworks, tools, and processes that don't like necessarily do something for you, but give you tools to create things. And these things can be anything you want in the world that work towards improving the human lived experience. And like, for me, anything that's approached with that mindset should be considered a design activity.
Cool. My design experience. Obviously, this one like question I'm probably gonna answer for this podcast. I got into design because of Apple and watching their videos. Do you know Jonathan Ive?
Yeah.
But yeah, he has like a thick accent. Like the way he just talks about design is really intriguing. That's like when I started getting into design. When I like first saw design, I saw most of like the aesthetic value of it. But then afterwards, like I think like especially in high school, since I was like a part of this like startup incubator program, I began to realize like most of the design you do is for value and creating value. I'm not sure if that's a good, like after taking like a bunch of courses in college, I also see like that might not be a good way to approach it, because like it's a really economical focused way of looking at things, and sometimes you don't want to be that way because like economics has no constraints and the like world has constraints in a way, because we're like on finite resources. I think I take a more holistic, like especially with like what Kevin was talking about, and especially after the anthropology course, I take a more holistic approach and more, I think, long-term view on designing systems. And like as Robert was talking about, like taking a more framework approach to it and thinking about putting more thought into like design. And I'm more like, I guess, statistical stuff, I guess. I just work on projects there's like this organization called Design for America, and they're basically a nationwide organization. And they have like these chapters at every university that's a part of their nationwide network, and they basically have teams work on design thinking projects. And I was fortunate enough to work with them on a project, and then me, Katya, Kevin, and Bushpreet, who's not with us today because she's MIA. We worked on a biomimicry global design challenge, which I thought was like, I found that through one of the other organizations I was working at before, and they like told us. I found about it through their like Facebook page, and it was really interesting. I think I did watch a video afterward. Do you guys know Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So basically, he put this like person on blast who's a proponent of biomimicry design by saying like humanity could think a lot more ahead than like focusing on what nature has done in the past. So it's like I'm like thinking about it, yeah. But yeah, so if you take two words from me, I guess holistic and long term is like the two things I would describe about like I think how I see design. And it's changing. It's like, especially with like Robert, you're talking about like technology. It's like changing like way, it's changing a lot. Yeah, let's go to the next question. So let's talk Industrial Revolution and Moore's Law and then mobile first. So like, how do you guys think design emerged, and like, where do you guys think it's like kind of headed with like the frameworks and like everything we just talked about? So I guess.
Well,
quickly,
I could just jump in. Sorry, I mean, you're explaining Moore's Law and Industrial Revolution. Maybe if you can give us some context on what you mean by that, maybe define it.
So I did Industrial Revolution last minute, but I think the whole thing with this one is looking at why design is like how design emerged and why is it important right now. So with the Industrial Revolution, we kind of like saw this spike in like energy use, right? And then that like we were able to like create a lot more easily and efficiently. Does that explanation like make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And so like that's why we have industrial design, right? Because like we're designing for, I guess, industry. And then Moore's Law, like after that, once Moore's Law came in, we're able to like procure electronics and create electronics at really low cost, because like the number of transistors doubled. That was able to like, we're able to create electronics really cheaply. And then that was like another huge spike in design. And then we're now at mobile first. Does that whole stream make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so does anyone want to jump in?
So,
yeah.
Go for it, Kat, yeah.
Oh, sure. So with relation to Moore's Law, it's as far as I know, I don't know much about it, but I know that it's been an observation, and it's not necessarily any sort of physical law that governs the creation of integrated circuits. But I guess that kind of speaks to the idea that we're always looking to perfect design, but we're never really, like, it's not really possible to get there. There's a point at which we have to acknowledge that there's physical constraints on what we're trying to envision and create. And even if we perfect everything down to the smallest detail, there's something that at any point. So I think as designers, we have to be aware of that every step of the way. There's some sort of limitations that we have to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not even about like, I don't even know if going wrong is the best way to put it, because I watched this very good TED Talk the other night. It was this psychologist / lawyer who was talking about the psychology of hard choices. And like, essentially a lot of the times I find in design, there's no real such thing as like right answer and wrong answer. It's more like we have all these alternatives, right? And like some of them have like some particular values embedded in them. Others of them have like others values embedded. And I mean, both have their strengths and merits, but then we have to like take a look at it and say, okay, which one do we pick among all of these things where there's no clear winner? And then that comes down to us really sitting down and asking ourselves like, okay, who are we? What are our values? And like, what belief system and value system do we want to stand behind? Which is kind of beautiful, because I mean, it gives us the freedom to go and like really make a change in the world and really impose some sort of idea on how we think the world should be. The thing is, as you were saying, Kaya, like there's always the potential that you might go wrong, right? But go wrong less in like the defined sense of like, oh no, I made a logic mistake and this doesn't work, but more in saying like, wow, should the things that I was promoting and valuing and believing before really fall into a correct worldview of the world?
Are you talking about Ruth Chang's TED Talk by any chance?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, I love that one. That's a good one to watch. Yeah, I totally I can I see where you're coming from. So you're saying like rather than just looking at sort of the progression of a certain design of a certain product being designed, kind of look outside of that and see where it's going from a more holistic point of view as like like how it's backing our society's morals and values.
Yeah,
and stuff.
like when we look at like a product, right? Like my first question is like when we say like a product is good or a product is bad, right? My first thought is what exactly do we mean by a good product or a bad product? Because like depending on like where we're looking, right? We may say that some advances are very good and like some advances are that. For example, like a good example of this would be, and we're kind of early segue into like the next part of this conversation, but like a lot of designs around AI, right? There are a lot of people right now who say like, look, we've got now computer automated systems which can replace and automate the work of an incredible number of individuals. This boosts our productivity like so much. And there will be a whole bunch of people who say like, wow, what a good thing, let's optimize that. And then you'll have another set of people who are like, okay, wait, hold on. But if we do that, what about all the other societal potential problems we introduce, right? Like, does this facilitate like class problems? Does this mean that like because we have less control, we're going to be less efficient at the end of the day because now we don't 100% know how these technologies work? And I mean, like, there's no good right or wrong answer to that. But there are different answers that depend on what we value as a society, you know? And
yeah.
for me, like, yeah, whether you made a right or wrong design decision to give something full control or not give something full control, or like enhance autonomy or not enhance autonomy, isn't it like logical, factual decision, but more a question of saying like what works out best to improve the lived experience of the human condition, which is kind of just like design as a whole, right?
Yeah, it's like as good as a phone you make, some people are just never going to like using phones.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's really nothing we can do about that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Okay, that seemed like a lot. I was like super confused. I lost track of my notes, sorry. So like like give it to me in layman's term. Like the last part you guys like talked about was like interesting. It was like it seemed like you guys got to a really good point. I shouldn't understand it. So like layman's term.
Wait, which particular point?
So I think you guys were talking a lot about like values and how like you end up designing something that isn't like people won't even use at all at the end.
Oh yeah, that. So yeah, it's essentially saying like, and like we brought up AI as a decent example of it, of saying that like sometimes like what's right or wrong in design really depends on like what we as a society want to promote. And so like we can't really like look at something and say obviously that was designed poorly and that was designed well. We have to say like, okay, like what are we trying to encourage? What like things are important to us? And like that process of saying like beyond like physically designing my integrated circuit or my like bridge or my like computer algorithm, asking like more fundamental questions about like what are we trying to do here? What are our objectives? Those are like as valuable a component of the design process as then actually going into the thing we're designing and saying like let's pick out individual things to change. I don't know, is that a good summary?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But I just don't, I'll like come back to it and like re-listen to it properly and make sure we can all just like come to contribute to these notes. So I think it'll be fine. Katya, if you if like Katya or Robert, if you guys, but do you guys have the notes doc?
Yeah, I've got
like when you guys aren't talking, you guys could like just like edit like whatever I have, because I just have like phrases right now. Okay. Wait, Kevin, do you have anything to add? Like we went to Maker Faire, and so I think towards like Moore's Law, like mobile first. I think like Robert, you're talking about like how we'll get to this later on. Like AI is like changing that whole mobile first paradigm. But do you guys watch Google I/O? Oh, but like all the companies, I think, right now basically going from mobile first to AI first.
I forget, that's an Eric Schmidt quote, right? I believe he was the first one.
Yeah. Oh wait, I'm not sure if it's Eric Schmidt, but Sundar Pichai, he's like the new CEO of Google right now, but he's the one who like talks about it a lot. But yeah, to Google, I started watching some talks from Google like Larry Page and Sergey Brin, like they have like some interesting stuff. You guys go check out their stuff too. But apparently Larry Page is like he's not so much of a public speaker, so it takes some time to process what he's talking about. But okay, yeah. I think that was really interesting. So wait, Kevin, do you have anything to add on from Maker Faire? Any ideas?
For Maker Faire, I guess you know, I know you guys are talking about like the process design and how we can, you know, further it. You know, maybe I'll go the opposite direction. You know, when we think the Industrial Revolution, we think everything's efficient and quickly managed, and then if it's not usable, we discard it, and just it's a consumerist culture, right? I mean, looking towards, I mean, Surya and I, we were both at Maker Faire, and I realized I noticed a lot of the designs today focus on sustainability and reusability, or being able to, you know, we call it, I like to use this definition, we have fast food America, right? We have McDonald's, the big corporations. But now there's a rise in slow food America, right? You know, having, you know, homegrown farms and stuff like that. So I guess I was just thinking, I'm not sure if you guys have thoughts on this, but like, are we shifting from a, you know, we're going through the Industrial Revolution currently, and we're going through another stage, but what's next? What do you guys think is next?
I think it's, so like this goes back to kind of like the big history thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
So they have this modern revolution. It's like a whole spectrum. So like the first, second, third, like even the like quote unquote fourth one we're in is a hot part of this huge like energy transformation called the modern revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think a lot of stuff is changing. I could like see like, wait, do you guys know the MIT Media Lab?
I think I've heard of them.
Yep.
But so like one of the guys, like the MIT Media Lab founder, Joy Ito, he's huge on like self-healing and this whole like complex systems view. So I think like that's starting to take off. So looking at like things that sustain themselves, I guess, is one way of looking at it. Like so urban agriculture, urban farming, stuff like that is starting to pop up a lot. Is that like what you're trying to get at, Kevin? Or?
Yeah, no, I just you know, bring up the idea. I mean, we talk about industrial age, you know, we talk about steel, right? Or we go back to the Stone Age, right? I'm sorry, let me go in order. Stone Age, we have the Steel Age, or I'm skipping around, but now we have the Silicon Age. But what's next? You know, are we going right back to, is it like a cycle?
Yeah.
You know,
you got, so like
back to agriculture feed again.
So going back to
you know, so
going back to that Joy Ito and then the urban agriculture, urban farming. So a lot of like what's being thrown around right now, especially with like blockchain, I guess, is like decentralized systems. So like even with 3D printing and Moore's law, it's become a lot more easier to like have people custom like design their own stuff for themselves, which is like pretty like, I think that's like the leapfrog inflection point in like how we design things. So like the decentralization of like a lot of like stuff, like even in a huge part, energy is going to change a lot. It's going to change a lot of things in the system.
Definitely.
And especially with like basically that's like basically Maker Faire's like whole, it's like philosophy, ideology, like decentralized maker movement. I guess I think that's like where a lot of stuff is headed.
Yeah.
So are we talking corporate or local? Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm just gonna write decentralized.
Yeah. Like I mean, like I definitely do think that that's gonna be a lot of we're gonna approach like a paradox in the future, at least from my eyes, because I do definitely see the whole decentralization movement. Like blockchain is on the cusp of changing a whole bunch of things about the way we live. We've got all these new technological paradigms which allow like increased individuals to like, you know, do their own thing and gives people the resources to approach their own problems. But in the future, I do see the future right now very much as we mentioned, like a Silicon Age next. I really think that next we're coming to the age of data, because we have so much stuff now with the internet being generated at lightning speed, you know, petabytes and petabytes and petabytes a day. And there's so many ways we can use this that like we haven't fully looked at right now, which is why for me, actually, instead of decentralization in the future, we might actually get more centralization as those who have access to data become like the essential rulers of the world. Like I would not be surprised, like even now, like looking for like internships in a whole bunch of companies, what a lot of companies are pitching as like techniques and like reasons why you should go work there is because of access to their data sets, right? Like Google and like banks like BMO and RBC, they've got like access to these huge data sets that allow you to learn so much from people and derive these sorts of insights that you just can't get as an individual with blockchain and 3D printing. And I think like with that, we might have this like two-tiered system where in some areas, like especially like manufacturing with 3D printing, we might have like the total end of all of that. But then at the same time, we're going to have fewer and fewer individuals who host the services which give them data. being able to make more and more informed decisions and influence more parts of our lives.
So do you think that's a good thing though? Like when only a few companies have, wait, this is kind of like jumping into like AI and stuff like that, but do you think that's a good thing that's if we have like centralized people who have like large amounts of data sets?
For me personally, it's really worrying because you think like we've got these companies, and like even worse, these are like for-profit companies too, who have like an incentive to, a financial incentive to like manipulate our data. So I mean, like it's definitely not ideal from my eyes, but I don't see any way around it given what's happening right now.
Okay.
I think once we have the capability to share larger and larger amounts of data, maybe there will be more of a push to make this data open source, do anything they want with it. Because after all, if you're contributing to the data, shouldn't you? You should have some sort of right to use it. At least that's my personal opinion. I don't. People have differing opinions on the legality of Facebook collecting data and all these huge companies.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's a good thought to end that question, and I don't want to get too further than that because that's gonna blend in with some of the other stuff we have. So let's look at 3D printing more in detail because like I think that's what the second question was like kind of leaving off at. And then, like design at you guys' universities, like what do you guys see there? And then we talk a little bit about the Biomimicry Global Design Challenge and the future design tools.
So the ways that I see 3D printing being used is just like people walking into a library and 3D printing some, create like a part for a machine they need to print. It's kind of like you're bringing the ability to create these objects to people for a very low cost. And it's sort of like lowering that barrier to solutions that work. I know that I'm not sure if I've mentioned this to you guys. Might have in a previous meeting, but to a previous doctor turned engineer who has created this 3D model of a cast that she can have her patients print. It makes the cost of it's not a cast. I think it's a brace. On the details, but it's a brace that allows these patients to like heal their fingers more quickly. I think when they're broken, but it's just like you're just lowering the barrier to access all of like for everyone. I think that's positive change.
Wait, you're kind of breaking. Hello?
Oh, hello?
Oh, but okay, I have a question. Wait, do you know about Building 8, Engineering 8 at your school? Is it Engineering 8?
Like
Is that what's called?
the building?
Yeah, can you tell me about it?
I much about it. I know it's I think they're in the process of building it, but I'm fuzzy on the details. So I don't know much about what goes on.
Yeah, so like from what I got, I think like it's like an extension of like one of you guys' building, but they have like a lot of like co-maker labs in it, and like I think a huge emphasis is put on like robotics and 3D printing in that building. I don't know too much about it, but I think like they posted on like your page, like the University of Waterloo page, and I saw it. It seemed interesting. Kevin, Robert, you guys want to add on? That's like really interesting.
I guess I can jump in real quick. And I know Robert, you probably have something to say, but I guess in terms of 3D printing, from my perspective, 3D printing is all about reconstruction. So as an anthropology major, there's a focus in archaeology. Archaeology is the study of the past, right? So being able to excavate things and understand cultures and history and so on and so forth. In terms of 3D printing, it's for a applicable use. It's maybe reconstructing an object. Maybe it's a skull or a bone of a mammal, We see these sort of reconstruction things in National Geographic magazines or Wired magazines, and we see being able to reconstruct things. From my perspective, I'm really interested in how we're able to use maybe 3D printing models and being able to contrast that with reconstructing whole entire landscapes. Maybe let's say we have a cup or a Coke bottle from New York City, and then we have a teacup in China. But being able to see the correlations after we reconstruct it with 3D printing, and having maybe elderly people look at these objects, other than just a remodeling of it, but a emotional response to such objects, I think that would be very, very interesting. That's something we don't get enough in across time and space, is emotions. We don't know how to, how people feel, but until they're actually able to feel the object, I think that'd be very interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite cool. I wish I had more experience in this whole like blending history with 3D printing thing, because that sounds really, really insane. But like, I think like the ways I've personally seen 3D printing a lot being used is, instead of designing to like recreate the past, using 3D printing almost as a tool to create the future. Especially in like an engineering program where you've got a lot of people building all the time. In the past, fully like understanding the implications of your designs were kind of difficult, because you'd have to prototype in ways that were very, very, very low fidelity. So you'd start like sitting around, right? Like say you're building I don't know, some sort of like device, right? Some sort of machine. And you're thinking about how something would work. And the way you would test that out is not obviously by building the physical machine. You'd essentially say like, okay, let's come up with something that's like this machine, look at its like characteristics and what it does, and then we'll try to map that on and learn from that model for our actual prototype. Which, I mean, is fine. There's a lot we can learn from models that don't 100% reflect what we're ultimately doing. But when you just have 3D printing as a cheap, fast, efficient way of prototyping, your ability to glean information from models increases this much, right? You can start rapidly prototyping ideas and coming almost immediately with results and data that tells you like, yeah, this feature is a good idea, this feature is a bad idea, because I can see exactly how it will be implemented in real time just by clicking a button and printing. So I mean, if anything, I really love the creative freedom and the creative potential that 3D printing gives to innovators and people who are physically building and making, in terms of refining ideas very, very quickly to come up with optimal solutions.
Yeah, I think that was a good sum of it. So I think the whole paradigm is built on this like lowering of the cost of making prototypes, and that basically leads to what your creative freedom you're talking about. And that's why it's like it's such a potent force in like manufacturing. Do you guys know Shenzhen? It's like the capital of like Silicon Valley of like hardware in China. But it's starting to blow up. Like you see a lot of like this 3D printing and like low cost, low fidelity design happening there, and that's like changing a lot of stuff. Yeah. Okay, so like the second part of this question was like design at universities. You guys have a lot to say on that. Like, so all I want to say was for this part was just like that design thinking centers are popping up around campuses in the United States, and that I think is just something noteworthy. I think that's one of the reasons why design is one of the main topics that I want to discuss for this podcast series. Designing future tools. I think it's basically kind of like we are going to get to that later on. So let's look in this part, number 4, technological symbiosis and future interfaces. So like 3D printing, as we talked about, like it's changing the way we kind of like design. And so on the larger level, like that, like kind of how to explain this. Do you guys want to explain this part, or you could give it a shot, maybe? So basically, a lot of like this cost lowering and all these like rapid ways of prototyping now are changing the paradigms in which areas we can design. So a lot of design is like seeping into biology, biology. What else is there? Synthetic biology and like our own bodies and the like ecosystems that we inhabit. So like, what do you guys see like in terms of like technology seeping into different areas through design? think that's a mouthful, so I'll start like kind of chipping away at it. So I see like a lot of the interfaces that we see right now are like electronic. They're on our computers and tablets and iPhones and mobile devices, and like I think a lot of like it starting to change, especially with like the Apple Watch. Like that's starting to scan your heart rate and like your like sports activities and stuff like that. And so there's like this whole like place of like wearable technology that's starting to boom too. I think that could have a lot of implications for like for the medical field in a way, because like you could like potentially look at commonalities in I think you could look at commonalities in like medical issues. Like I think one of the things that I'm talking about is like this one guy had he like I think like they could like find out if you're gonna have a heart attack or something like that, or if you're something like that. I'm not too sure, but that was one of the interesting stuff I found out. Yeah, I'm not too sure about the heart attack part, but I thought like wearables like being able to do that was interesting. You should look into it. But I think like that's what like I can switch it up right now while catch you talk.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that, Surya, and I think it ties into our earlier discussion about having access to large amounts of data. Except this is more localized. It's you're with wearables and with app like trackers, like apps that track your eating and sort of like physical habits that you have. I think we're getting to this point where we're collecting large amounts of data about ourselves and we're able to predict where our health is going to go in the next 30, 40, 50 years. That has huge implications for specifically quality of life, like especially as people get older. And I think people want to know sort of like what risk factors they need to look out for. What they need to change in their lives right now to make their lives more livable later on down the line. I would say, like, just if we were to tie that into future interfaces, like your body is the interface, if that makes sense.
Whoa.
Yeah. So from what I see, from the first Google search, apparently like the Apple Watch heart rate monitor could predict heart attacks or something like that, and it could identify irregular heart rhythms. So that's like an interesting paradigm. Okay, how about we let's like break this down. So it says digital fabrication technologies are interacting with the biological world on a daily basis. So like I think the wearable paradigm is like one way. Do you guys see any other digital fabrication technologies? So like 3D printers. What else do you guys consider digital fabrication technologies? So I used to work at this fab lab at my college, and they had like this biohacking space. I'm not too sure like what their goal is with it, but like I was interested in biomimicry, and like that's one of the things I was supposed to work on. But, like, what do you guys like? What does biohacking mean to you guys? Like, what do you guys see there? Kevin, I don't think we saw too much biohacking at the Maker Faire, right?
Did we? I don't remember really seeing. I think was there something there?
No.
Yeah, not really.
But I think like what they're trying to get at is that like these digital fabrication tools are making it easier for us to go from like various areas. Like the barriers between different disciplines is breaking down really fast. And so like you could go from like one area to another. Like technology could seep into health, and health could seep, like biology could seep into technology, like vice versa. So like kind of like the biomimicry paradigm too.
Yeah, and I don't think that's just I'm not 100% sure if that's just the biomimicry thing. Although like I'm sure it's 100% true there. But it seems like everywhere, like everything is somehow becoming a technology-based institution. Like you're seeing like banks right now all freaking out, right? And investing in, the latest in AI. and like securities fraud and like blockchain, all these like emerging technologies in order to continue competing. And in fact, like consulting firms right now, stuff traditionally once considered in the paradigm of like business and stuff like that is now like embracing a whole bunch of new things that they find can make them more productive. Even something like, political science and anthropology that traditionally was, a more humanities discipline. Now we're finding that technology can become this tool that makes life a lot easier. And I think what I love about digital fabrication as a whole, I mean, like I'm by no means an expert in it, but stuff like 3D printing and biohacking, because the cost and the complexity has significantly come down since even like 10, 15 years ago, it means that now individuals who aren't necessarily subject matter experts can use these technologies and exploit their full benefits in a practical manner for whatever it is that you happen to be doing. And I mean, I think that that's really the beautiful thing about it. It means that we can become so much more efficient in all these industries. We can break down all these barriers because the tools we need in order to do that are now accessible to everyone and can be learned relatively simply by everyone as well.
Yeah, that's I can speak to that, having been to several hackathons where you see people come up with a biohack over 2 or 3 days, and it's sorry.
Yeah, like I've seen some incredible stuff happen in 24 hours, which is like 24 hours.
Yeah, and it's like people will grab a cardboard box and stick a sensor on it, put it on their head, and with it, and I mean, you've created something that increases, like, makes someone's human experience better. You know what I mean? Like it's just pretty cool. That low barrier to access.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why hackathons are so cool. Like, to anyone who's listening to this, please, if you can, and you're in university, whether you can code or not, it doesn't matter. Like, do hackathons, because that's where you get to see so much of this happening by like kids our age who are just like, let's start playing around and see what we can come up with in 24 hours.
Can I put go to hackathon in notes?
In bold.
Oh yeah, I suggest you guys I'll share with you. I'll put the link on the messenger. Go in, and if you want to add anything, feel free, change it up. I think this is where we'll be able to share it a lot more efficiently. So one of the things, this ties into design. One of the things that we talk a lot about is accessibility, making sure, and a lot of the innovations we see comes from this area of space in design called accessibility. So making sure everything, technologies are actually making sure technologies are actually able to be used. Yeah, you guys get it. You get the point. Yeah. So you guys were talking about hackathons. What about computational design? What do you guys? I think Katya, you're talking about computer science and design. At the beginning, you want to go into that maybe a bit more, talk about computational design.
Yeah, can we define computational design first?
Sure. Give me a second. I'll use the World Economic Forum's thing. Oh, John Maida talked about it. Okay, we'll just use the Google design. Sorry, Google definition, computational design. Oh, they don't have the actual then.
Okay, so I found an OK article. So just quoting verbatim, computational design is the application of computational strategies to the design process. That's from archdaily.com. So I guess it's
wait, computational strategies to design process, is that what you said?
You're applying instead of kind of just relying on your intuition to solve design problems, you have more of a systematic approach. Is the way I understand it.
Yeah. So I think what this is all coming down to is we're seeing a combination of computational design with kind of the digital fabrication technologies. It's just seeping into various parts of the biological world. So I think one of the things that they talk about with the World Economic Forum is the lines between the physical, biological, and then there's one more thing that they use to describe. Wait, do you guys know? Oh yeah, okay. It is characterized by a fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. So a lot of like this technological symbiosis is like kind of like getting at to what we're gonna talk about in the next question, which is like the fusion of technologies, I guess. It's happening at a rapid pace because of this like technological symbiosis. Yeah. Do any of you guys have anything to add on to this, or we could like move on? Because like we've been taking a little bit of time.
We can move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we like talk about like future interfaces in this one too. So I talk about like the fusing of technologies right now. So like, what do you guys see in that? Like, so there's like nanotechnology. Have you guys heard of brain computer interfaces? Like Elon Musk is starting to become a proponent of this.
Do we know if he like kept up with that? Because I know he was announcing like $100 billion and like
$100 billion from Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Isn't his net worth like $10 billion though?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm going to be putting $100 billion into this over the next 10 years. He made some like ridiculous.
Oh, next 10 years.
Yeah, he said some ridiculous proclamation. What was it called? Neuralink, I think. Neuralink,
yeah. But there's OpenAI. I think that's like the combination of like all the tech companies coming together. I think. Wait, I know. But I don't want to talk about so much the AI stuff. But so you guys know what brain-computer interfaces are, right?
Yeah.
I remember reading in my psychology book. But it's like this it's like a quasi like crazy outlandish idea.
So it's just the idea that you're connecting an external digital device straight to your computer or straight to your brain, right?
Sort of, but there's a psychological study, like I just remembered right now, but like I think what they did was like they put like chips into a monkey's head and they're able to like, I think it was able to like tell them what it was thinking, or they were able to control it. So like that's kind of like this brain computer interface like thing. It's really interesting. We'll like kind of get to that. Like a lot of this is like, I think we're kind of like reaching like limits, and like I know, at least for me, like I don't know too much about this stuff. So I think we're just like gonna kind of just make, kind of like build up what we know together. Yes, go from there. And so we have advanced materials too, which is kind of like going back to the kind of like the design fabrication technologies. A lot of these technologies with it combined with advanced advanced materials can make you like huge leaps and bounds and stuff like that. I think that's what they're getting at. So like, what are your guys' opinions and like thoughts about this stuff? I think a lot of this is like speculation. Yeah.
I think we're still in the sci-fi realm on this.
This is my problem with a lot of like this like futurist stuff. I'm like, this is still coming and this is all so exciting, but realistically, how close is any of this to transforming our lives on like a widespread level? And like a lot of you says like probably not for a little while.
Yeah. I think we'll like get back to this AI stuff. Katya, wait, we could talk about Kevin too. Do you guys want to talk about Biomedical Global Design Challenge? What do you guys thought about that?
Oh, real quick before we talk about that, I just want to jump in.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, speak on digital fabrication and these future designs of stuff. It reminds me of cyborgs and biohumans and transhumanistic, shamanistic, you know, a lot of istics all together, and that's the future of spiritual, maybe spiritual technology. Is that a way to define it? But I think that's what I really want to see. Maybe that might be something interesting, you know.
It's actually weird that you talked about that. Like most of the tech, should we call them luminaries, or like tech people? So Steve Jobs, apparently he went to like this like temple in India, and like he told like Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Page to go. I don't think he told Larry Page, but he said Mark Zuckerberg to go there too to like find your focus or something like that. So I think it might like connect to like that whole like long-term vision, like shaman spiritual stuff that you're just like talking about. Crazy.
And having that incorporated into people like directly through technology, like we make ourselves our own shaman.
Yeah.
I think I'm out of the loop on this one. What do you mean by like spiritual? What's the spiritual aspect in that?
So like there's like
go ahead.
So like a lot of these guys, like a lot of like the technology companies right now, especially like with Google, like you know how they reorganize themselves into Alphabet.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they have like this huge long-term view now rather than like short-term gains from like a few decades ago. So we're talking about like a lot about like the Industrial Revolution too, right? It's like I think like back then it was like a lot more short-term. Like what are you gonna do for the next 1 year or 2 years, how you're gonna build your business off that. But now it's like all long term and like really quasi, like the word like I heard from a World Economic Forum video was quasi godlike. Like we're starting to gain like that, especially with what Robert was talking about with data. It's all starting, you're starting to become like all knowing and stuff like that. It's like weird. Yeah. So that's all I can describe it with.
So we have like we have a
sense?
godlike power to change our destiny and change our bodies and the way we live and everything about everything we know.
Yeah,
but
we gotta remain extremely humble about that. Like
yeah.
Okay, so like
be humble.
that was like yeah. So like that was one of the things like what I'm working on next, like was hinting at like in Messenger was like working on next was a lot of kind of like looking at this kind of stuff, I guess. But yeah, like one of the, like what I'm planning is maybe this podcast and in the future too. Like I'll like once I get it for sure, like how I'm gonna work on this next stuff, you guys can look at it. Wait, what Kevin, what are you talking about? Like what you want to add on to that or?
Oh, yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe just to clarify, Katya, but like kind of when we've watched movies like, I don't know, movies about, human brains being transferred into robots or like, these sci-fi movies that I'm not sure we're approaching that sort of transgression towards that technology. I guess that's what I was trying to bring up in general terms. Yeah, I don't know if that's possible yet. But hey, who knows, right? So.
If you're looking for like one specific thing, look at transhumanism. I think that's more like out there and more clarified. Like that's what like one of the big areas, transhumanism, like trying to take human bodies and making them like, I'm not sure like what exactly is, but like being able to survive forever, I guess, kind of in a way. I know. Yeah.
Immortality, right? So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, let's not like that's too much of a deviance from like what we're talking about, but
yeah.
Biometric Global Challenge. I think like one of the other things, like big aspects of like the WF, like one of the other things they talk about a lot is like about kind of like specific emphasis on like the biological world. Now that's starting to connect with us, like taking inspiration from nature can be helpful in a way of designing sustainable systems. So you guys want to build off of that and talk about biomimicry?
Yeah, I mean, our biological world has been like.
I think you're cutting.
She's cutting out.
Yeah. Right, Cassie, I think you're cutting. So wait, Kevin, you want to talk a bit or?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just jump in real quick. But I guess, I mean, the biomimicry challenge, when we worked on it, our main focus was on finding some connections between the natural world and the built world that we live in, and how we can design stuff off of that. So I mean, sorry, it's been a while since biomimicry challenge when we submitted our design, but maybe if it was the carbon cycle design, I believe.
Oh yeah,
right?
so looking at permafrost, I'm not too sure how that if that was like we in hindsight it would have been a lot better if we could like meet in person to that project.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at how permafrost could store carbon in green roofs.
Right.
I think a lot of that is starting to like straight up green roofs and like planting trees on your rooftop green roofs.
Right. But I think it was very interesting in terms of the research that we had to do. It involved a wide variety of looking at permafrost in different locations around the world to what are some practical designs to making the cycle much more efficient. So talking about the real chemistry. We all did this project via Google Chat and online, but we were able to come up with an idea which is still pretty amazing. I think from that challenge we were able to at least come up with something. But if we actually met in person, I wonder how much farther we could have gone. But definitely an eye-opening experience, right? So. Yeah.
I think like mostly just like looking at, I think they have like they have a like main reason of there's a Vox video on it, but I think that's one of the big reasons like why biomimicry design is starting to take off is like nature has done this for like millions of years, so like they know like it's already evolved to, you know, suit the needs of it's nature has so all the organisms and like plants, trees, and stuff like that, and all the biological systems have been evolved to suit nature's needs. So if we like follow that, like we could probably make good systems for the environment too. I think that's like the main like thought process behind biomimicry.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, there's a Vox video on it, and it's have you seen that?
I think I have, yeah. I think we.
But like the creator.
Yeah, like fitting.
But the creator should talk.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's kind of like just fitting in with nature. Like we're not building over it, rather we're building with it, right? Is that sort of the idea? Yeah, like we're putting in the last jigsaw puzzle, and there it is. It's called technology into the vast puzzle of nature.
I think it's a good like thought process, like biomimicry. But after watching that Neil deGrasse Tyson video, I don't know. But I think there's a Neil deGrasse Tyson video on like he talks about biomimicry in this panel. Check that out too in the Vox video. Yeah, I think we should move on. But this is like pretty straightforward. Design thinking, human-centered approach, human-centered approach, or holistic approach. Like, what do you guys think is the best? So I'll start off like why like I'm asking this. Like I watched this like video on design thinking and how it has like some cons to it. Like this lady, I think she works at I think Adobe or someplace, but there's like this conference called 99. I think it's 99CU or something like that. And she talks about how like the tools for design or like design thinking specifically are limited to just Post-its. Like, have any of you guys done design thinking before?
Yeah. A lot of the time it's just like a whole bunch of people sitting around and like sticking up these ubiquitous Post-its on walls over and over and over again.
Yeah. That's hugely limited. And like one of the other things that we start looking at is like participatory design, having the people who actually tell you the issue like design too. So I think like there's like this huge disconnect in design thinking. There's some problems in it that like need to be addressed.
Really? Like
so like what do you guys what?
Oh yeah, I would ask like what kind of problems in terms of like not having is it that people who are actually affected aren't participating in the design process?
Yeah, I think that's like one of the issues. But like the lady that like the video I watched, I didn't watch it fully. But she brings up the big issue of that, it's like the only tool that you use in design thinking mainly is like Post-its. And it's like one of the big, like that's what she was talking about. But I'd suggest taking that, like looking at that video. So like, what do you guys think? Like what kind of like approach do you guys take to design? Okay, I guess I could go first. So I talked a lot about the holistic approach, which I like kind of like learned about in anthropology, the only anthropology class I took, but it was really insightful. So like so like I think one of the first base layers that they tell you is like everything in the world is interconnected. And so if you look at one part, if you only look at like one part of the whole entire system, you don't realize the connect that it has to the various other parts of the system. And that could be like a really bad way of looking at things. So like you don't want that narrow view, you want like the broad, holistic approach to everything. So you want to take into consideration the whole rather than the parts, because the parts make up the whole. So like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I personally disagree with the whole idea of like holistic thinking versus design thinking, because I mean, like for me, like design thinking fundamentally is holistic by nature. Like when you're designing, right? Part of the design process is sitting around and like working with the people who are involved in order to get their views fully heard and fully put into account. And if anything, I'd say that like one of the biggest advantages that design thinking has is that for me it provides like a systematic structure and framework that allows you to essentially say, there are all these different layers of complexity that exist in the world. How do we classify and like categorize them appropriately so that we have like a big picture view of everything that's happening? At least like that's like the way that like I learned design. The biggest challenge of design isn't even like coming up with a solution. It's saying like, how do we ask the right questions, and how do we, of all the different perspectives from which we could see this problem, pick the one that's going to yield the best results that we define. So I mean, like, I'd say if anything, design thinking allows us to be the most holistic engineers and designers that we possibly can be by providing like frameworks and tools to lay out all the information that's relevant in front of us. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Interesting. That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
I really like your question. You're focusing on the question rather than the answer idea. That's 'cause that's huge. Some people, like some people will create a product for a problem that doesn't even exist, and it's important to acknowledge that you need to talk to the people who have a stake in what's gonna the solution that's gonna be created, so they can understand what's really going on.
Yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about design thinking, right? Like one of the fundamental tenets is like you iterate, with the idea being that by iterating and by constantly going through cycles and cycles, you can be constantly getting feedback that where the rest of the world is telling you, hold on, wait, you should be thinking about this, or I don't like this, or we should incorporate this. And then like by going through all those cycles, right? Like for me, I think that's the best way to get other people's opinions, because if applied correctly, it applies a mechanism to directly communicate with and interface with the people who you're ultimately serving through what you're doing. And like, yeah, and like the question as like predominant, like I definitely do agree with that as well. And like design thinking can help to do that. And I think like design thinking is very important to be viewed like through a holistic context. Like when we talk and when we design and when we dialogue, it has to be taking all of these different elements into account. So that might even be like a merging of design thinking and holistic design to try to like get a combination of both going.
Yeah, I think like it depends also on what you're creating, because you were you're on iterative design and of software for just like maybe ways of organizing people in a company, or that kind of stuff. Like that can be easily solved with iterative design. But if you're going with more traditional maybe engineering project, like building, constructing something, maybe architecture, you've built to end different set of challenge with what you're trying to create.
Kevin, do you have anything to add on to that?
You know, you guys have pretty much covered everything. I was going to say.
So what?
Sorry, we started off. I feel like we went a bit off about design thinking or human-centered design. Sorry, what do you mean by like human-centered design, or like what do you mean by human-centered design?
That's like centering human needs in. So I think design thinking takes a like you take a need and then you diverge on it, like putting multiple ideas on the board of like how you could solve that issue, and then you converge on one, and you diverge again, and you converge. I think human-centered design is taking a human need, and then I think it's more kind of like, wait, give me a sec.
I think, sorry, while you're looking for, I can clarify. I think what you're speaking of earlier, and from anthropology, we look at cultures, and our idea is to try to avoid biases. So the term biases is understanding contexts, not through your own lens, but through being able to look at it through another lens. So I think what you're trying to explain in terms of human-centered design is, are we only designing things for the purpose of human beings being able to use it, you know, or are we being able to apply it to, I don't know, like nature, or to like a tree, or to a glacier, right? So on and so forth. I think, is that what you're trying to explain?
Sort of, yeah, but I could add on to that. Like a lot of humans have internal biases, which may affect the design process, which is why we want to like test out various design ways. I'm not too sure. I think this is something that requires more input and thought. Do you guys have anything else to add on to this, or? you guys want to move on or?
Sure.
Okay. So this last one is like kind of like open-ended question. How should not? This is one of the questions we got from the question form. How should non-Northerners approach the design of products, and solutions?
Ooh.
Example for infrastructure, transportation, food systems that are meant to be used in north or remote areas. Let's take a stab at that.
Oh man, okay, I've got some ideas about this personally, which is like going back to the whole like design thinking type thing. I think that like especially if you're designing for people of a different culture, of different like economic and social standing, it's really important to take that whole holistic design thinking mentality into account. Because I mean, like realistically, you can't come in and say like, I know what's happening. Let me like tell you precisely what needs to be done and go and do it. Like there are like cultural nuances, things that we can never understand. And the only way for us to take them into account into our design decisions is to really sit down and like listen to the people who will be affected. And that really becomes, in my opinion, half of our job as designers and engineers is sitting down and saying like, okay, tell us your concerns, tell us your needs so that we can synthesize them and like address them collaboratively in the best way possible. And so through like the whole fundamentals of design thinking, right? Through placing a lot of emphasis on like coming up with the right questions to ask and the right perspective to see an issue from, I feel like that's the best way to approach these problems so that our designs are actually useful and actually functional, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a huge emphasis needs to be placed on empathy. I think that's like one of the key factors of design thinking that should be, I think there should be like a huge emphasis on. What else? Yeah, I think like we talked about this like in the last podcast too, about how like we can't really, like you can't really know a culture fully through like VR or AR, which I thought was like, I think it's become more interesting as like time progresses. But I think like empathy and like being able to put yourself in the shoes of others, like Kevin, cultural relativism, does that ring a bell?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's especially since like people have different languages, like being able to exchange like input. I think like one of the things like I've been seeing from me at MIT Media Lab that's like talking about before is like participatory design, like knowing your place in like I guess like the planet on Earth, and being able to like situate yourself, understanding like the consequences of what you do is a huge important aspect of it.
Yeah. I really like that. Even like just that fundamental idea of like understanding, right? Try to understand the consequences of what you do and kind of building off the empathy. I'd even argue that like while empathy might be important sometimes, the real like crux of empathy that's important here is understanding of the other person. Like fully grasping the political, social, technological, and economic context. That for me is the fundamental thing we need when designing for Indigenous peoples, because only when we do that are we going to be able to design stuff that can actually be used by them by taking into account all these variables, which I mean in our daily life we just don't experience.
I think to a certain degree, just to add on to all of your points, we can go even one step further than when we're making decisions. Sometimes we can even just the job over to them, I feel, because they know what they want. They have, I'm sure there are people who have the skills to kind of make that and enact that change. I just, is coming from an article that I read. It was posted a month ago on CBC News. And I think this is a pilot project with the Nibinamik First Nation that has kind of just like poor housing situation. The idea is that they know what struggles they've gone through with previous housing, and they know what they want out of a dream house. So
yeah, that's
just relinquishing control.
So like involving like all stakeholders. So like, Joy Ito, the guy who I'm basically talking from. So like they take this system view of like, so you have traffic. Most people complain, oh, there's traffic, but like you are the traffic too. Like that's like one of the things like that, like participatory design. I think taking a
yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when I go to my family's going to the store on a like Saturday morning and can't find parking, and my parents are like, "What is everyone doing shopping on a Saturday morning?" Like, we are part of the problem.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the like huge. Like, I don't know, like I know about you guys, but I think like so like the first semester of college, like I was super like environmentalist, and then I've been like environmentalist since like high school because like they make us do like projects for like sustainability service, making sure the environment is like good. And I've been like rethinking a lot of it and just thinking about how like 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 they're plastic water bottles, but they're already made. It's like I know I've been rethinking a lot of this stuff personally about how I could be more sustainable. And that was like one of the things, like one of the thoughts that I came across, especially with like watching Troy Ito's videos, that like we are the problem, but we could be the solution too. Yeah, Kevin, do you have anything you want to add on?
Yeah, I guess I can just jump in, kind of like an idea, I thought process that I had while we had this discussion. But you know, from anthropology, I'm not sure. Once again, anthropology. Sorry, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but there's a saying that goes like this. You know, we try to make the strange familiar and the familiar strange, which is basically saying, in a way, our familiarity to each other is we're all connected. So, an example, all of us here on this call or on this podcast here today are all connected because of Students on Ice, right? We all know each other because of that one moment we all experienced together. And the strange part is we're all from different parts of this world, but we all have, you know, this strange connection that makes us want to work together to design the future, or so on and so forth. I'm going to get very philosophical here for a second, but it's just, you know, it's the ability to combine ideas. You know, in a way, we pretty much, no matter where we are in this world, from the north to the south, everything's connected, and we aren't that different. You know, we're all human beings, or you know, mammals, or whatever you want to go discuss into. But yeah, that's just my thought process, I guess.
I think that's a good note to end it off, like the humanist. Is that like a really humanistic approach? Yeah, I like it. You guys have any final thoughts or?
Well, just to relate that to the northern community specifically, goes a long way to create design processes that enable us to further the process of reconciliation, because we're still struggling with that. There's still people who are living in bad conditions, and reconciliation really doesn't ring true. And I don't think it will ring true until we allow everyone to live up to a certain standard. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, that's the end of the design part. That took us an hour. So do you guys want to finish it here, or do you guys want to keep going? I should be fine with anything.
So what do you, sorry, you mean you're going to go into the next section, or are we doing this some other time, or how is this going to work?
It's up to you. We could keep pushing forward. It's been an hour, so like I don't know, you guys might have something else to do, or it's up to you, like you guys.
We might want to end this video maybe just to make it a little more clear, the separation.
Yeah, I don't think we can do like two.
Oh yeah, sure, okay.
I don't know if we can do 2 of these topics in the same podcast. That's a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so you guys want to end it here and then do it later, or do you guys want to end this one and then start the next one again right now, or?
I'm good to start right now, but it's up to you guys.
Robert, is that okay? I remember you like talking about your stuff. We could like do this I'm like free for 3 weeks, so we could do this any other time too.
Yeah, I could probably stay like another half hour or so.
Same. Are we missing any?
I think it might take us, like looking at how long this went, like it might take us a long time. So like it's better for you guys do what you guys have to do, and then we could be patient with this.
Are we missing anybody? Sorry, I guess that's.
Oh yeah.
She's like MIA. She's been MIA for like months.
Okay.
She's traveling.
She's trying to study abroad, and then I think she's in Hong Kong or something like that. And then Nick, he left SOI, and then he's just on the group chat. He never like I messaged him to like one of my friends, she wants to apply to SOI, so I asked him if he wants to help out because he might know like some stuff about it that I don't. So like I asked him, but he's been MIA on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I think
he's
like,
not
he's like transitioning, so he's probably busy.
he's not working at SOI at all?
No, he left.
Oh no, he like retired. He left.
Also, Connor left too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
No way.
I think it's like I think it helps like especially to, like move around. Like gives you different perspectives rather than just staying at like one place for a long time.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, maybe I can just bring.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah, I just think it'd be a good idea if we can all maybe recollect our ideas, and then I know we're talking about AI the next time, right? So when we come back to this new podcast, maybe we'll have some fresh ideas. I feel like I've used all the ideas I can.
Yeah,
So
I think yeah, sure, okay.
I
think I'll
need
like
to go do
because I need to like reread some of the stuff I read on like AI too. So I think it's like you guys want to do like let's decide the date like right now because like I'm just wasting like so much time on that. So like when are you guys free?
Should we end the recording?
Oh no, I was like let's just like set a date and then I could like we could decide the time later on. Or does this time work for you guys too? Or
Yeah, no, that worked. I'm pretty free like for the next little while, so
yeah.
whatever like you guys feel.
Maybe sometime next week would be good. I'm not sure when everyone's free next week.
I'll be good after
free, like,
New Year's Day.
okay, so I'm looking at 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that works. Any of those days.
Yeah, 2, 3 I could probably only do late at nights. But other than that,
Okay, what about 4?
4 I should be free.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
We can do that. Okay, 4th. Okay, see you guys next week.
Okay. Good job, guys.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, what's up?
So you said January 11th. The thing. Or I'll text you separately. I'm sorry. The Climate One thing.
January 11th. Oh no, it's fine. Oh, Climate One. Yeah, they have a.
Yeah, and you guys can come too if you want to come to California.
Lights and technology too, so like you guys could hear too. But apparently, so like Climate One, our sponsor, has this event called Silicon Valley as Green as It Seems. So I think like a lot of you guys probably might see like the environmental initiatives of tech companies around. So apparently there's like so they're inviting 2 of these people, like one person from like Adobe, I think, and one person from Salesforce.
Okay.
And they're gonna talk about like so like they're the VPs of their social kind of and environmental initiatives, and they're gonna talk about like whether like everything that's doing is whether everything that's doing is sustainable or not. Okay. Cool. Wait, do you guys know about the Apple Spaceship Campus?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
gonna be at the Apple Spaceship Campus?
Oh no, it's gonna be at their HQ at San Francisco. But yeah, you could like if you ever come down, you should go check it out. Like San Francisco, it's open to anyone. So go check it out.
Where is it?
But like if you fly over it, like you could see like I think it uses so much energy up. I'm not sure how they say they put solar panels on top of it, but like is that actually how you like power it up? You can like see it so clearly from like if you're flying over it. Like last time I like it was so bright. Yeah. But what's up?
Anyways, but yeah, just let me know. I might be able to go if
oh wait, really?
we can work it out. So.
Wait, when's your break end? Because like all my PC friends are like they're leaving it on the 7th. Wait, you're free that day?
I fly back to Fairbanks on the 13th. So.
Oh wait, cool. We should definitely go. Like I'll email Keely.
Yeah, let me know. But yeah, if you guys want to come too, come to California. Feel free, swing by.
Yeah, we get free tickets to Climate One. They have events all the time. They're like super. Like honestly, I'm like so really thankful. Like yeah.
If you guys ever end up here, just let us know. We can allow you to go visit. Kelly Pennington, right? Is she still there?
Yeah, she's still there.
Super nice. She's kind of like the representative, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let me know.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
See you guys.
All right.
Bye, guys.